Welcome to this class. Please hold on for me. I'm coming. Where is my phone? Unfortunately, Doc had an emergency that he has to attend to. That's why he couldn't join us. So I will start the class. Maybe later he will join, but we hope that you will be able to join too. Yeah, we hope you will be able to join. This was the course title. Can we all remind ourselves of this course title?
I think it's gospel and art. Act. Gospel and act.
Hello, please, can you all hear me? My network is messing up. Okay, I think I'm back.
Yes, you can hear.
Same here.
Please, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes,
Oh,
you
okay,
can hear.
yeah. I asked of this course, the course title and the course code. Can somebody help us? Hello?
Yes, please, gospel and art. Yes,
Please, am I
gospel
right?
and art.
All right. So, the one who is supposed to take this course is Dr. Godwin Kofi. Therefore, unfortunately, he's not available today. So, I'm his assistant, his teaching assistant. So, he instructed me to take over just this morning. So, we are just going to go through some few things, then we move on. Okay, so basically, gospel and act is just a let me say, sub course from the introduction of New Testament or from New Testament. So some years ago, I don't know if this particular batch also did introduction to New Testament. Introduction to New Testament. Did you all do the same course?
Yes, we did.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Then I think the course is going to be easy. It's going to be easy, crowd, because everything that we are going to do is not different from whatever we did in the New Testament. The introduction to New Testament. Just that one was just an introduction where we just brushed through various things. But this time we are going to go into details of the New Testament gospel, where we will talk about some things from the Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Then we switch to Acts. So we will talk about some of the parables in the gospel. We will talk about some of the miracles of Jesus in John, the Canaan, cyclical Canaan experience. We talk about so many things more than what we did in the new introduction to New Testament. However, it's not different from the introduction. Oh, not okay. It's not different from the introduction to New Testament. Okay. So I'll be sending the materials to you too very soon. Okay. We wanted to start the class to see how things will be. Then we send them to you. So maybe I'll be sending chapter 1 to chapter 2 to you today, and in the subsequent week you may be sending the rest to you. Okay. So let's start. Basically, we have to understand that the New Testament is divided into four major segments. if you want to study New Testament, you have to make sure you understand that the New Testament is divided into four segments. That is where we have the gospel, we have the historical book, and we have the letters, then the apocalypse, that's Revelation. So that is a basic thing you have to understand. Because if you claim that you are doing New Testament studies, then you have to make sure you understand what when we pick the whole New Testament book, how many segments comes into the book. Please, is that clear? Okay, so let me read something I have here. The New Testament does not stand on its own, since it joins the Old Testament to make the Christian Bible complete. So the Gospels and Acts are first two principal divisions of the New Testament. The Gospel and Acts are the first two principal divisions or segments in the New Testament. The main concern of this work is presenting, I'm reading the introduction to you. The main concern of this work is presenting concise introduction to each of the Gospels and Acts in the New Testament by consulting available scholarly works. Okay. All right, let me share it. I didn't want to focus more on it, but okay, let me share it so that I will just go through stuff with you. Okay, please can you see the my screen? Please, is it clear now? Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
it
Let's
is.
move on. Let me read the introduction for you. Let me start from the beginning. The introduction of this course. The New Testament is divided into four major segments for easy study, as I said earlier. And this work deals with the first two major segments of the division for the New Testament. The New Testament does not stand on its own, since it joined with the Old Testament to make the Bible or the Christian Bible complete. The Gospel and Act are the first two principal division of the New Testament, as I said earlier. So the main concern of this work is presenting concise introduction to each of the Gospels and the Acts in the New Testament by consulting available scholarly works as indicated in this study. An overview of other Gospels or non-canonical Gospels are clearly stated by throwing light on why they were not selected to be part of the Gospel that we have in the New Testament today. The reason for each canonical Gospel author wrote are highlighted. This study shows the purpose for writing the Acts. The Act presents historical facts on the beginning and the spread of the Christian faith. So this is just an introduction for you to understand what we are going to do. That the Acts, we have talked about the gospel already, where the gospel throw more light on the things of Jesus, how Jesus lived on earth, and the things that he did on earth. And the act of the Act 2 is going to present the historical facts from the beginning and the spread of the Christian faith. Please, is that clear? Okay, so let's move on to the chapter 1 of this course. We are going to look at the introduction to the Gospels. Introduction to the Gospels. But before we move on to this introduction, I want you to understand something, that there were some ancient Gospels that existed before these ones that were canonized. So before we got this New Testament Bible that we are using, you have to understand that there were some Gospels that existed before these ones came and before these ones were accepted into the New Testament canon that we are using in our churches now. Okay, so let's look at some Gospels as an ancient biography. The Gospels as an ancient biographies. Hello, please, can you hear me? Please, can you hear me? Okay. So understand that the Christian Gospels are greatly considered as ancient biographies by many scholars of the New Testament. The biographies actually concern the Jewish man who is regarded as the Son of God, called Jesus, the Savior of the world, as I said earlier concerning the Gospel. One important thing to know is a biography is an ancient Greco-Roman genre which several distinctive with several distinctive characteristics. The ancient biographies were usually based on oral and written sources, and they were often portray the main figure's character at the beginning of a narrative. Also, they were not written to give a comprehensive report on a major event of a person's public career, but to show the person's character as it manifested in different situations encountered by the person. In this wise, they were character portraits that inform people about vices to avoid and virtues to emulate. Again, please hold on for me. Okay, please, sorry, forgive me. Yeah. So as I was saying, let me just summarize that paragraph, okay? Else you take much time here. So the gospel as a biography focuses on the fact that it is about a person, his character, and the things that he did. So as I read earlier, there were things that he did that were not accounted because it didn't entail all his life, but it entailed some part of his character that are relevant to us. So the gospel mostly narrates some of the things or the character of the Son of God, who is Jesus, some part of his character to us that we will depict or we will walk in them, or things that man or humanity can learn from. Please, is that clear? So the famous author of ancient Greeks Roman biographies include Plutarch, Suetonius, and Tacitus. These are some of the ancient Greco-Roman biographies. Some of the things that Plutarch. However, many modern biographies differs from that of the ancient biographies in many ways. Today, biographies deals with full data. That is the name of the person, the place, and event, which indicates factual accuracy. As in these modern days, if you want to see something or a biography that is um, counted as an accurate biography, said biography should entail the full the name of the person, the place, and all events or most events of the person. Um, I want us to skip and then just go straight. So when I send you the material, we just go through the biographies, okay? But that's in summary what I've given you. Let's go to the writing of the New Testament gospel. Let me read the preamble. This session deals with two important issues, which are the factors that delayed the writing of the gospels and the circumstances that led to the writing of the gospel. So you have to take note of two things here: things that delay the writing of the gospel, and two, the circumstances that led to the writing of the gospel. So when you get to the dating of each of the gospel, you realize that we talk about things that happen, or things that or the particular dates or issues that went on during those days. So as we move on, you come to understand that. Firstly, the gospels about Jesus Christ in the New Testament circulated in an oral form. The meaning is people talk and discuss the ministry of Jesus Christ for 40 years, said that they were presented and handed down orally before they were finally written down. I think this is clearly understandable. The question is, why the delay in the writing of the gospel? The answer to the question is several factors that led to the delay. The factors include: the early Christians thought the coming of Jesus Christ, as he promised, will soon take place, so they could not write immediately after the ascension of Jesus Christ. So they thought that the moment Jesus left, or Jesus was taken to heaven, his coming was just going to happen immediately after that. So because of that, they couldn't write, or they couldn't put them down with immediate effect, because they thought that Jesus was just going to return from heaven within a short period of time. That is the main reason, or one of the reasons why the gospel was delayed. Again, the apostles of Jesus Christ and many eyewitnesses were alive, so they did not see the importance and the need for writing of the gospel we have today. So the second reason why that, or the reason why it was delayed, is because they were alive. For example, how some people would think they have a long life, they are going to live for a long time, so they will not even make a will for their children until the day happened. That is how things happened in the early Christian time. So they thought that, oh, since they are alive, they can keep on spreading the oral literature. They can always keep on spreading the good news just orally. But they didn't know that they should, or they didn't think of it in the way that they should just put it down, so that at least other generations will come and meet it as we have today. Please, are we all good? Are we following? All right. So up to, okay, you let me finish this part, then I ask if you have any challenge. Secondly, there are some circumstances that led to the writing of the gospel that we have today in the New Testament. Let's look at some of the reasons for the writing, or some of the circumstances that led to the writing of the New Testament. The first reason for the writing is the death of the apostle of Jesus Christ, or the apostles of Jesus Christ, and many eyewitnesses who were the actual source of information about Jesus and his ministry. The memories of Jesus began to fade at the death of the people who were only reliable for, or the reliable source of information. However, it was believed that around 70 CE, only John, one of the disciples, was alive. The death of Jesus' apostles and the eyewitnesses led people to record the oral information about Jesus, since there was the practical need for some written account to meet the demand of increasing Christian communities. So if I'm to just explain this, I would say that the first reason, or one of the main reason why, or the circumstances that led to the writing of the New Testament, or the writing of the New Testament gospel, is because they realized some of the eyewitnesses, or the main reliable sources of information for the writing, were dying. So then they have to make sure that they have those information down for other generations, because even they believe, or they think they know, will definitely go away. So there is the need for them to write it down before they all fade out from the surface of the earth. Also, there was a conflict between the Jewish and the Roman authorities, which led to a persecution. The only sure way for Christians to find comfort in the face of the persecution was to read about Jesus's similar conflict with authorities and his suffering and death. So because they realized that the conflict that was between the Jewish and the Roman authorities um were increasing, where some of the emperors were persecuting them, some of the Herods, picky pensions, some of the Herodians were persecuting the believers. So because they realized that the emperors were persecuting them, they had to find comfort in some of the things that Jesus went through for them to be comforted. Because if they read about Jesus and they realize that Jesus went through certain things, and even among all the persecution where he was beaten up and there where he was crucified, he endured, then it will give them comfort for hope, or a comfort to hope for the future. So they realize that then, if this is what is happening, where even through these persecutions, some of the people that were first hand were even dying, some of the apostles were also dying. Then, if we write it down, the subsequent persecution, or in the subsequent persecution, some of the followers or some of the disciples or even believers that will come after us will be able to get this information and read them for comfort. Me and I understand that sometimes we are being encouraged by the things that we read in the Bible, that even Paul was persecuted and he still endured. Even Stephen was stoned and still he went on to preach. So these were things that they believe that it will give them comfort if we go through similar persecution or similar troubles in the near future. Another reason or circumstances that led to the writing of the New Testament is that the Gospels were written to serve as instructional material for converts of the faith. It was written to serve as an instructional material for converts of the faith, and to encourage people to become better Christians by remaining steadfast and faithful in different situations like the persecution. The messages in the Gospels were meant to strengthen Christians during times of temptation and suffering. So you have to understand from here that one other reason that stirred, or that encouraged them, or that motivated them to write the New Testament gospel, was just to be as an instructional material or as a guide for the new believers, like some of us here. Because there are some of you following me here that you know that even though you don't know what happened, you don't know the real thing that happened, but it is through the writing of the gospel that you come to understand that blessed are the peacemaker, for they shall be called the sons of God. It is through these same instructions or the Bibles that you get to understand that he said that blessed is the meek, for they shall see God, and blah 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 blah. It to This was written down to be as instructional material or as a guide for you and all those believers out there. So if you are a believer here, or if you're a Christian here, it was written for you to as an instruction, so that you go by them and walk in them. So if you are going through persecution, they believe that it will encourage you. If you are going through any form of suffering and temptation, you know that even Jesus went through temptation and he overcame. So you see how Jesus overcame, and it will be an instruction for you. I don't want to explain plenty, because if you leave me, I'll talk plenty on each paragraph. Another factor for writing was to resolve problems between the Jewish religion and the Christian faith movement. There were many movements then. So this was to resolve the problems between the Jewish religion and the Christian faith. Many people, or some Christian church history scholars, believe that Christianity came out of the Jewish movement or out of Judaism. And in a way, it is true, because Jesus Christ came out from a Jewish family. And we know that even Paul, that we know that he wrote some of the letters in the New Testament, even though we are not doing the broader New Testament, but we understand that some of the parts, or some parts of the Bible which was written by Paul himself was a Jew. He was a strong Pharisee, and we know that Pharisees are some part of the sect in Jewish religion. So it was to resolve some of the conflict that existed between the Christian faith and the Jewish religion. The Gospels were to establish religious practices for those who accepted the Christian faith in order to gain their independence from the Jewish practices like the dietary laws. The gospel was a way of propagating the religion of and about Jesus as Christ, as the Christ, far above the Greco-Roman emperors who were regarded as gods. So you have to understand that even in the Jewish sect or the Jewish religions, there were some part of them that were persecuted by the Greco-Romans, and that was because of that the Jews were even persecuted. Aside that, you have to understand that even among the Christian, when the Christianity started, they were first worshiping with some of the Jewish sect until it got to a time that they had to separate themselves to be a separate religion. So when they got to separate themselves to be a separate religion, they had to get a book or something that would be as an instruction or a scriptures for them, so that they wouldn't be using the same Torah that the Jews were using, where they were abiding by some kind of dietary laws, where they were not eating some kind of food, some kind of meat, but they wanted to be independent from that Jewish practices and laws. So they had to get the scriptures for themselves. They had to get some things down to be as a guide for their faith or for their walk in the Christian faith. Please, up to this point, do you have any question? Is there anything that you want to understand? Kindly let me know. If you have anything that you want us to explain, kindly let me know. Are we all good? Okay, so if you are all good, then me, I'll throw my questions at you. Can some of you tell us how many are we here? I think everybody can mention some. Let me hide my slides. Or some of you. Okay, so somebody should help us. Some of them. Please find that slide. Let me know that just before. The time that timetable was posted, I wasn't online, so I wasn't added on the page. Hello, please, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, please. Please, what time is it ending? 3 p.m.
3:30.
or 3:30 p.m. Okay, okay, okay. All right, so then that's cool. So please help us. I want to ask questions. What were the things that contributed, or some of the circumstances that contributed to the um writing of the New Testament? You can unmute and answer me. Everybody should answer a question here. Okay, Miss Stella.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Okay, so one of the circumstances was the death of the apostles of Jesus Christ
Okay.
and the many eyewitnesses who were actual source.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so
Say mine.
much. The next person, Isa Abubakari.
Can I say mine?
Okay, you're not done. Okay, please continue.
Okay, so I think one circumstance is the delay of the second coming of Jesus.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you explain for us?
Okay, so the time they thought um Jesus would come was delayed. It was getting um
Please, I'm listening. Oh, with the network. Hello.
hello,
Yeah,
hello.
please, we are listening.
Okay, so I was saying Jesus gave them the impression that his return would be soon, but it seems it's delayed. So the witnesses, the original witnesses, and then um, those who were there at the time he was born and all that, they were aging and they were dying. So they had to put down something before they all vanished from the earth.
Okay, okay, that's great. That's great. Please, any other? It's all a hand raised. Somebody raise their hand. Hello, please. Who again? Yeah, I mentioned many things. So is it that you didn't hear or what?
Hello, say.
Yes, please. I want the class to be interactive, so everybody should be involved. Else, I'll just talk and go. Please, I'm listening.
Okay, I also heard that the gospel were written to serve as an instructional materials for us to convert of the faith and to encourage people to become better Christians.
Wow, that's nice. That's nice. Thank you so much. So, if nobody else wants to talk, it's fine. But I want to establish that.
I don't know
Okay.
whether I don't know whether the first person said it was because the um, disciples were being persecuted. I don't know if she said that.
No, she didn't say that. So
Okay.
you can
I
explain that
think
one.
that is also the reason. Yeah.
Can you explain it? You may give a point, but the explanation can also make it wrong or make it right. You get it? Please, can you explain it for us?
Yes. So the disciples were those who were with Jesus when he was alive throughout his ministry and everything. So they were the first hand they were the people with the first hand information and they were being persecuted. So they had to jot down everything that has to be written. So they they decided to write uh, they decided to put them down before
Now,
they all get persecuted.
okay,
Please, am I right?
I
okay.
come in
Thank you
small.
so much. So, as I was saying earlier, your points can be off. Yes. Okay,
I
come in.
think what she said here is right. But I thought maybe it was only there as a source of comfort because so that it will be what would I call a source of comfort. They will read and also know that even Jesus himself was persecuted and how he deals with those particular situations. I think this is where I wanted to come and add something to what she said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So you fall down well, you fall down well. This means you are following. So you have to understand this thing, as I was saying earlier, that your point may be in a way may in a way be off, but your explanation can make it right. Okay. So let's always know how we will explain our point and make it better to support the point you've mentioned. And that is how we can be scoring good marks and grades. Please, is that clear? So understand this then. That when we are talking about some of the things that delayed um the things that delayed the writing of the New Testament gospel and the things that contributed to the writing of the New Testament, they are two different things here. And I mentioned earlier that the things that delayed the writing of the New Testament gospel was because they were expecting the coming of Jesus as soon as possible or immediately after his ascension. Take note, some of the things that delayed the writing of the New Testament is because they expected the coming of Jesus to be immediately after his coming. Even though it was part, if you are able to explain it well, it can be a part of the things that can contribute to the writing, though. But you have to understand that the things that delayed it are different from the things that contributed to the writing. If you are writing an essay work, so it will all depend on how you will explain your point. Please, is that clear? Please, is that clear? All right. So, any question up to this point? Hmm. Miss Estella, please come in.
Okay, so please, my question is, when you mentioned the last
So
circumstance
fun. Okay.
as it resolved the problems between the Jewish religion and the Christian faith.
Okay.
Um, is that the reason why we have the Bible today?
Said, is that the reason why? Hello, Mr.
Christians are using the Bible.
Isa Abubakari, please mute your mic. Isa Abubakari. Okay, I can mute you here, so let me mute it myself. Okay, hello, please come again.
So I'm asking that based on the point resolving the problems between the Jewish religion and the
Okay.
Christians, is it the reason why we the Christians have the Bible or using the Bible today?
Okay, that's why I didn't say the. So it's part of the things that contributed to the writing down of the gospel. Is that clear? So if we are mentioning some of the reasons that contributed to the writing of the New Testament gospel, as in they writing it down into scrolls, then it is part, because they wanted that to resolve the issues that were going on between the Jewish religion and the Christian faith. So if this is how they were going to use it to resolve it, in the case that they wanted them to have their separate scriptures or the things that will guide them as religion, and they this part and the Jewish religion too will have their own scriptures or books that will direct and guide them in their own religion, because there were some things that the Jewish religion believed in that the Christians did not believe in. For example, is their dietary law, where that they were limiting people from eating certain things that they can just eat it. Please, is that clear? You remember in the book of Acts, I think chapter number 8, there was a time that Peter was in a dream and he saw some kind of meat scrolling. You know that Peter was a Jew. So he saw some meat scrolling, and the angel of the Lord said, or the Lord told him to pick and eat. And he said that they are not clean. He called them unclean. Yes. So there were some dietary laws between which the Jews had, and there were some laws that Christians believed that everyone is accepted. Gentiles are accepted into the faith. Everything is clean because they believe that Jesus has cleansed everything. So that even that alone was bringing conflict between the Jews and the Christian faith or the Christian movement. Then it was a movement. So it was bringing some conflict between the Jewish movement and the Christian movement. But when they got separated, they had to get laws or Bible or some written document that will guide them as, let me say, a law, as the Jews were having their own laws. Please, is that clear? All right, thank you. Okay, so hey, okay, so let's continue to the next chapter, which is the chapter 2. That is the Synoptic Gospel. The Synoptic Gospels. So you have to understand that the Gospel as a whole has 4 books. The Gospel has 4 books. That is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and then John. But within all these Gospels, we have separated them, or we have a part of it that we call the Synoptic Gospels. The Synoptic Gospels. I don't know if I should read for you or I should just summarize everything. But you let me read. So the Greek word for gospel is evangelion. Evangelion. And it was used to refer to the proclamation of message in the period of the New Testament. The root of the word evangelion is the verb euangelizo, euangelizo, which means to preach the glad tidings, to preach the glad tidings or bring good news. There were many gospels in the Roman Empire during the middle of the first century. For example, we have the Gospel of Peter, the Gospel of Thomas. Those who did the New Testament introduction to New Testament remember all these things. The Gospel of Mary and other stuff. The Gospels we have in the New Testament today were written about 45 to 65 years after the death of Jesus Christ. Please take note. That is where the delays come in. So if maybe you are to talk about detailed about the delay of the New Testament Gospel or the writing of the New Testament Gospel, you have points here. It delayed, or it was written after 35 to 65 years after the death of Jesus Christ. That is according to different scholars. And these were written by different authors with different reasons. So Matthew had the reason why he wrote it. That is why the previous ones were some of the things that motivated. So it was general ideas about that. But every author has or had the reason why he was writing any of the gospel. Okay. So the New Testament Gospels are called canonical Gospels, which are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Up to this point, please, is everything clear? Okay. It seems only one person is talking. Two people. Two people. Okay. Right now, let me say I have 3. All right. So let's continue. The New Testament Gospel records the story of a historical person called Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who lived and taught in Palestine. Any way that you mention it will be okay. The record of the history of Jesus in the gospel narrative include his birth, baptism, temptation, the call of the apostles, the teachings, miracles, death, resurrection, and ascension. Please let's take note of these things. The record of the history of Jesus Christ in the New Testament include his birth, his baptism, the temptation, the call of the apostles, his teachings, miracles, his death, resurrection, and ascension. For the death aspect, if you write his persecution and you bring the death and resurrection and ascension, you are right. But in simple words, you can use this. The first 3 Gospels, that is Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the Synoptic Gospel or the Synoptics. And their authors are known as Synoptics because of the distinctive relationship in the content of the 3 Gospels. So if you are asked that why is the 3 Gospel, or why is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John called the Synoptic Gospel, you can answer that it is because of their distinctive relationship, or because of the distinctive relationship between each content or their contents. The word synoptic comes from the two Greek words, which is syn and then optic. Syn and optic. And the syn means together, while the optic means an eye. Syn mean together, something that is being together. And the optic is called or is an eye. So if you put all of them together, you see that the synoptic mean seeing together. Please, is that clear? Seeing together or seeing the whole together. In this way, the gospel presents the ministry of Jesus in a similar way. In a similar way, although there are relationship among the three gospels, they also have some differences. Please take note. If you are asked to define synoptic problem or what is synoptic problem, or if you see it anywhere or you meet somebody and the person is asking you, if you did New Testament, then do you have any idea about synoptic problem? Then this is your answer. Although there are relationships among the three gospels, they also have some differences. The clear literary likeness and differences between them is called the synoptic gospel. So it means that the synoptic problem, sorry, it means that synoptic problem means the clear literary differences and similarities between the New Testament gospels. Because of these differences, which has brought about the synoptic problem, there have been so many attempts to solve this problem. So there have been so many scholars who have propounded different um, theories to help solve the synoptic problem. Even though some came after the other, some did not stand, or some were not able to justify the reason very well. But there were some to that, in a way we can say that they were right, and DS2 helped solve it in a way. So as we move on in the study, we will come to understand that. But before we move on to some of the theories that have been propounded to solve this problem, if you have any question, you can ask. If you have any question, you can ask. I'm waiting for your questions. Please, I'm waiting for you. And I'll be any question. Okay, you all don't have any question. Then we move on. Please hold on for me. Mm, Evangelion. Okay, you let me use the other one. Let me use the word. This one is too broad. It's too broad. It's too broad. It's too. I'm trying to get a simple. Oh, okay, please let's continue with what we have. Okay, I was trying to get you something. Okay, so let's proceed to some of the theory that were propounded. So, an attempt has been made to solve the synoptic problem. The solution of the problem includes the Augustinian theory, the Griesbach hypothesis, and the two-source theory. The Griesbach hypothesis, the two-source theory, and the four-source theory, or the four-source theory. Anyhow, how you put it, right. So let's handle the first one, the Augustinian theory. The Gospel of Matthew was written first. It means that the authors of Mark and Luke used Matthew as source for their work. Many church fathers supported this theory. The understanding is that Matthew was. So let's look at it because they look similar in a way. The Griesbach hypothesis also indicates that Matthew is the first gospel written, followed by Luke, and lastly, Mark. You see, the Augustinian theory did not explain whether it was Luke that wrote second or third. Take note of the differences. But for Griesbach hypothesis, it is indicated that yes, Matthew wrote first, as traditionally we know. Matthew is the first gospel written. Then it was followed by Luke. Then Mark copied lastly. It means that Luke copied from Matthew and Mark copied from both Matthew and Luke, as shown in the diagram below. Please, is it clear? Because um, Augustinian theory that Matthew wrote first, and the authors of Mark and Luke used Matthew as source for their work. Most when they ask to write the diagram, they draw this one. We only understand that Matthew and Luke used Mark and Luke used Matthew as source. So when drawing the diagram, you are not in any way supposed to join Luke to Mark. I don't know if you are getting it clearly. If you are to draw a diagram for Augustinian theory, don't in any way join Luke to Mark. Just use the clear analysis as you have gotten to understand right now, that it was Matthew that rose first, then Luke and Mark used Matthew as a source. So you can use the same diagram without joining I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer there. Without joining this line to any, please thumbs up. Okay, I think Miami who are so seeing it now. At first I wasn't seeing it. Okay, so without joining this line, that is for Augustinian theory. But when you're talking about the moment I see this, I see it as Greenback hypothesis. Don't confuse the two, because I mostly see students confusing these two. So don't confuse these two. If maybe you are going to teach somebody, it's not only for exams. Whatever you are doing in UCC, it's not only for exams. You can use it for life. You can meet people, they will ask you questions, and you would have to explain things to them. So the moment you see, I see this diagram, I see it as Griesbach hypothesis. So let's take note of that. And lastly, when writing the exam, saying, and you are asked to talk about this particular thing, that is, you are asked to talk about the synopsis of level. So if maybe in undergrad, in level 100, you were not giving some marks or you didn't get some score, it was because of that. So let's take note of that too. All right, so let's proceed. But since you all did this in level 100 as introduction to New Testament, do you think it's necessary we go over this thing again? I want your consent before I move on. Should we handle the synoptic problems and solution again? Okay, I should go over it. Okay. All right. So somebody wanted to say something.
I was coming to say that we can just uh, jump over it, because it was thoroughly taught. I don't know. If
Yeah,
we,
because during the introduction, that was one of the main things. Okay. So just understand that we have to source theory. It was also used to deal with the problem. So you can read this like when you listen to you and this. And the source theory, which was the Gospel of Mark. Oh, and maybe it was because of how they were answered. Okay, it's not our fault. Sometimes it's because of it could be that even that part you got it right, but it was different questions that gave you that answer. So sorry. Okay, yeah. So you let me brush through it. Let me brush through it. So, but take note of the diagram. It's very important. At least it will fetch you maybe 2 or 3 marks. I've forgotten the scores. We mostly brief to that, but just giving the explanation alone is not enough. I don't know if you see it again or you not see it again, but you let's see what the Lord will do. So when you ask such question, just I need to find time and maybe today might be the only day I'm having. So let me just tell you all these things. When you are asked to write essay, let me use this opportunity to tell you how to write essay. Okay. When you are asked to write essay about particular question, you have to make sure you write your introduction because it carries marks, at least 2 or 4 marks or 3 marks to be dedicated to that. Oh, I'm using internet in do me check is Starlink this is see me who light no. Please, is it okay now? You said light this is yeah. Okay, let me use the internet again. There should be a light on. Yeah. Please hold on for me. I'm trying to work on my Wi-Fi. It's a light we so. I found that I didn't download the A. Hello, please. Is the network stable now? Perfect. All right. This is two sources, so it will be strong. Okay. So I should just move on. I wanted to show you how to write good essays. That's how sometimes you lose some marks because if the lecturer is setting a question or if the person is setting a question, he dedicate marks to everything and there are rules for everything except maybe the marker want to do positive marking where he want to just dedicate marks to just want to dash marks across the board. But when we are marking, there are things we pay attention to. It is because of the comment of Madam Comfort that's why I'm telling you all this. So let's just follow. You have to make sure you write a good introduction so that at least when you're crying, you will get five or two. Okay. You have to get your five because these small numbers are what will give you 4 or 5. So in your writing introduction, it should be more than maybe it should be at least 7 lines. My next internet speed is very strong at the moment. So I don't know if everybody is facing the same problem. Please, she's asking a question. Can you all hear me well? Or she the only one? Is she the only person going through?
Yes, sir, but sometimes when you are talking, the network will disturb a
Eh,
bit. Mm.
I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
same
from
problem.
your
I'm also
side.
it's
Wow.
on and off. Yes.
It could be your network. Let me check my speed test.
No, no, no. It keeps breaking. Yes, it's not on my
Eh,
side.
oh,
The
okay.
other same problem.
Okay. Wow.
It's here too.
I see. And I'm all breath home.
At times too, when you share, like when you are on video, at times the problem comes from there. When you are on video, it keeps on breaking.
Kafa.
I said I was
You see what
I
what I
was
mean?
saying that at times when you switch on video, the network becomes uh, intermittent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then you let me try and turn it off. Yeah, my upload speed is okay too, so I don't know why. Let me turn off the video so the micro will be comfortable. Listen. This is her. All right. So let's move on. Please, is it okay now? Is it flowing? Is it flowing? Is it flowing perfectly?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let's move on. So as I was saying, I said that if you are writing your introduction, you should make sure that you bring a background of whatever you are supposed to write about. So maybe if you are told to write about the synoptic problem and provide two solutions. You have to make sure that at least you tell us where the synoptic problem is coming from. So you can build a point. If you have more chance, still, why? Let me see if the airports will help me. Maybe it could be just the sun, not the. Let me see if airport will do. The airport is not specific. This network thing. It makes online classes as well. Uh, oh, please let's try again and see. I'm trying to connect airports to the CPU. Let's try. Is it okay? You should go or to the question you are being asked to. But that doesn't mean you should go and write plenty things where you write full page for introduction. You just be wasting your time. You get it? So you write about as I gave the example. So you talk something small about synoptic gospel. You can, if you have more time, you can even talk about what the gospel is, then synoptic gospel, then you talk about the synoptic problem. So there are some people they will not even talk about the synoptic problem, and they will just bring the synoptic problem to different places. But you can just talk about the synoptic gospel, synoptic gospel, and gospel, gospel, the synoptic gospel, and the synoptic problem itself being explained. Now, then if you start and you bring your thesis statement, it's very very important because what will give you 4 marks for your introduction is your thesis statement. And when writing the thesis statement, you shouldn't separate it from the introduction. It is one; they are all one paragraph, so you shouldn't give a different paragraph. Please take note of that. So if you are writing that maybe Kofi is going to school, and when he was going to school, he came back and he went to take his money. But when he went to take his money, some things happened. Though some things happened, full stop. Then the following are the things that happened. The following are the things that happened shouldn't go to a different paragraph. It should just continue from where you ended, the full stop. I don't know if you understand it, because these are some of the things that impresses markers. When we see that you have impressed us, it makes marking very easy, and there are certain things you are just being favored of. Let me tell you the truth. That is the truth. I'm just giving you the secret. If you present your questions, or if you present your answers very well, it encourages the person. You can just impress the person by your introduction. So maybe when you were asked to talk about, give what define the um 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 or let me say explain the synoptic problem and give two solutions to it. So it means you give two solutions. It means even in your body paragraph you have three. You have three body paragraphs to talk about. But in your writing your introduction, you have presented a good introduction with a good thesis statement. Then you come and you start. Um, you begin by explaining, or in the next paragraph where you are talking about the synoptic problem, you explain what the synoptic problem is. and make sure that you are giving some of the things or examples that makes up the synoptic gospel. For example, where you can see that there were things that are written in Mark that are not written in Matthew. They are all example of things that makes up synoptic problem. Because we explained that when you talk about the synoptic problem, they are the differences and similarities that are in the gospel, and these similarities are found in their content. So if they are found in their content, what are some of the content or some of the things in the content that are similar or that are different? If you add all those differences and similarities at least and give example, you can get your full marks, except maybe some few mechanical accuracies that will be deducting or that will be taken out. But you can get full marks. So sometimes you say that you write, you explain everything, and you didn't have good marks. It's not because of the writing, it's because of maybe the presentation and how you wrote it. And some of you, to the mistakes you do, is that when you are asked to explain the synoptic problems and give its solution or give two solutions, you add the synoptic problem to the introduction. You add that body paragraph, which something that is supposed to be body paragraph, you just add it to the introduction and you leave it as one, and you just come back to the solution. You come down to the solution. That has been one of the mistakes I've been seeing always. I would, if I'm not boasting, or if, yeah, maybe 50% of the class that is for the introduction to New Testament made that mistake. They just merge the main point, which is saying that explain the synoptic problem and give two solutions. They explain the synoptic problem, they always add it to the introduction, which is wrong. Even though you have added it to the introduction, you have to make sure that you tell us the synoptic problem in one whole body paragraph before you move on to the next paragraph to explain the ABR, the solution, the two solutions. You mention them in separate paragraphs, making three different body paragraphs. Then your concluding paragraph. Please, is that clear? I don't want to waste my time on that one. Please, I hope is that is very clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. So that is how come mostly sometimes you write plenty things and to come you are not scoring. It's not our fault because every paragraph carries a mark. So if you don't present it well, you affect a whole mark into a different paragraph. Like what I said, that you give a whole explanation into your introduction paragraph, of which the introduction may be just three. So you have lost the whole body paragraph where you were supposed to explain the synoptic problem into the paragraph. So if the person wants to favor you, will just give you the whole mark, even if you didn't write the introduction well, you'll give the whole mark for introduction for you so that at least it will help you. That is how mostly sometimes I did. But imagine you have just been given just one mark for that, and it's not nice. So let's do better next time. All right. So Augustinian theory, I've talked about it, where we said that it is the traditional one, where the Gospel of Matthew was written first, and Mark and Luke copied from them. The Graceback hypothesis also indicates that Matthew first wrote it, and then Luke and Mark copied and used them as for their writing. Then the two source theory, it also gives clear indication that the authors of Matthew and Luke used two sources when composing their gospel. Take note. I think the diagram should make things very, very, very easy for you. I know what I'm talking about. Should make things very easy for you, but I don't know why mostly people get it wrong. But I know that this class will get it well. We'll get it well. So it gives clear indication that the authors of Matthew and Luke used two sources when composing their gospel. The first source is the Gospel of Mark. The Gospel of Mark. And then, which the theory says it was written first. So in this theory, Mark was written first. And then Matthew and Luke copied. Take note. In this two source theory, Mark wrote first, and then Matthew and Luke copied. But something interesting happened. Although Matthew and Luke used Mark as their main source, they have some materials in them that are not found in Mark. Yes, we understand that Mark wrote first, but yes, as we have copied some things from him, there are more things to it that we have to copy. So where should we get these things from? This is where the differences come from. It means that Matthew and Luke copy from another source apart from Mark. For example, Matthew 3 7 to 10 and Luke 3 7 to 9. The different source used by the authors of Matthew and Luke aside Mark is called the Quell source by a German scholar by German scholars. Quell is a German word which means salt, and the letter Q is generally used as a symbol for it. The diagram below shows that in the composition of Matthew and Luke, each author used two different sources which are similar, Mark and Q source. So the sources of the two source theory are Mark and Q source, or the Quell. Please, is that clear? I don't know if the explanation is clear for that one. Yes, we understand that you wrote first, we have copied from you, but we want more. So we will also contact another source for more. That is whereby we have the Q source. All right. Now the four source theory. This theory indicates that, or indicate the priority of Mark, meaning that the author of Mark wrote first, and the authors of Matthew and Luke used Mark as their first source for their gospel. It indicates that, take note, the author of Mark wrote first. Mark wrote first, and the author of Matthew and Luke used Mark as their first source for their gospel. Apart from Mark and the authors of Matthew and Luke, apart from Mark, sorry, I forgot to add the question mark. Apart from Mark, the authors of Matthew and Luke use another source called the Q. Again, both Matthew and Luke had separate source, which is called the M and L, respectively. The separate source M and L together with Mark and Q are referred to as four source theory. That is according to Fried. So to put this simple, it means that they were using, or you can find four sources in this particular thing. That is the main source and where the person copied from, and then the M and the L. So let me make it simple for you here. Now, in this theory, it means that the scholars or the writers, the authors, accept the fact that Mark wrote first and he has content that, yes, you have content, I'm copying. So they've copied. Or let me pick Matthew. Matthew understand that Mark has written something nice and he has copied to get his own source. After copying to get his own source, Matthew was still not okay. So he had to get another source to support it. That is where he went to the Q source to copy some things from there. Then, aside having the Q, then he still want to get more knowledge or more in-depth information to add up. So he had to contact somebody called the M. So we say that the things that are peculiar to only Matthew is what we call the M. And the things that are peculiar to only Luke is what we call the L. However, there are things that are in Q that are also in Matthew and are also in Luke. There are things in Mark that are also in Matthew and they are also in Luke. Please, is that clear? Please, do we understand this scenario? Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
But if you can please explain again.
Okay. Let me explain it again. So, let me use UCC. Okay. UCC is representing Mark. UCC is representing Mark. But then there are students that want to get information or they are student, or let me say UCC is the main source. Okay, it's representing Mark, and me, I'm Fred. I'm representing Matthew. Okay, I'm Fred. I'm representing Matthew, and maybe let me say, Madam, who just spoke? My hand Papa. Madam Esenam is representing Luke. Okay, I'm representing Mark. Madam Esenam is representing Luke, and we are all writing something. So we have first gotten our information from UCC. Okay, we've all gotten our information from UCC or our knowledge from UCC, but we are still not enough with the information or the knowledge we have. So we said no. Then let's contact Legon to see if we will get another knowledge. So the two of
Hello,
us,
sir.
yes, please.
Sir, if you are saying you are Mark, I'm Luke.
No, UCC
Or
is the
you are
mark.
rather Matthew.
UCC is the mark. I'm Matthew.
Okay, but you said Mark, that's why.
Oh, okay. So UCC is Mark. I am Matthew, and you are Luke. Please, is it clear?
Yes, please.
Okay. So now we are all writing a book, and we first gotten our information from UCC. That is Mark. Me, the Matthew, you, the Luke. We have gotten our first-hand information from Mark, but we are still not satisfied. So we want to get another knowledge from Legon, which is the kill. So the fact that we have all consulted Legon and Mark, it means we have sources from Mark in our work, and we have sources from Kill in our work, because we've contacted UCC and we have contacted Legon. Please, up to that point, is it clear?
Yes, please.
Okay. But now, aside all those things, we still need extra information. But when I was going to seek for the information, me, the Matthew, I was going to seek for knowledge, and I didn't tell anybody. So I went to a secret institution to get that knowledge. And that institution I went is M. So every information I will get there is just peculiar to me only, nobody else. You are not part, you will not get that particular information, because I was the only person that went to that secret institution to get that knowledge. So that institution is representing the M. And you too, you went your own way to a particular institution, which is called the L, to get your own information to add up to your book, which is the L. So we say that Mark is the main source. That is, Mark is the UCC, which is the main source for the writing of the gospel. But me and you, that is Matthew and Luke, copied from Mark. Aside copying from Mark, which is UCC, we also copied from Kyo, which is Legon, into our books. However, we have peculiar sources or peculiar information which is only to us, which is secret to only us, which only us have it. That is me, M. I have that information just for myself. And you look, you have that information for yourself. That is the L and the M. Please, is that clear?
Yes, please.
Yes. So we said it here that Mark and the others of Matthew use another source. Both Matthew and Luke have separate source, which is the M. So I went to my secret source to get the M, and you went to your secret source to get the L. The separate source are M and L together with Mark and the Q. I refer to as the four source theory. Please, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. All right, so let's then move on. So up to this point, do we understand from the synoptic gospel throughout to the synoptic problem and its solution? Do we really understand it? Please just recall and see if you get everything clearly. If you have gotten everything clearly, sorry, before we move on. hmm So from the gospel, evangelion, the good tidings, where we have the division, synoptic gospel, um, what entails or what makes up the gospel, and the things about Jesus Christ that makes up the gospel. All those things are there. We have the synoptic gospel, which is the sin, and the optic, the eye, which means seeing together as a whole, in a whole, or seeing the whole together. And then we go to the synoptic problem, where we understand that the difference and the similarities in all the gospel is what makes it the synoptic gospel, or synoptic problem. Sorry, the difference and the similarities is what makes it a synoptic problem. And then we also understand that the content in them are what makes them the synoptic problem. So whenever you are writing, make sure you bring the part that you are saying that there are things in Matthew that are not in Luke, or there are things in Luke that are not in Mark. Just make sure you bring those things and just get at least one example of scripture in mind to buttress your point whenever you are saying them. Okay. All right. Then we talk about the solutions, and then the concern of this story is that authors of Matthew and Luke use four different sources when writing their gospel. The sources are Mark, Q, M, and L. The Q means the quell. According to Freud, most scholars have regarded the four source story as the best option. That is what I said when I was starting. Some scholars have regarded this one as the best option for for solving the synoptic problem. They have regarded it as the best because, and I also accept the fact, or we are scholars, so we have to also agree on that. So let me throw it to the house. UCC and university is just to make you critical thinker, okay, and a scholar, not just to read and just write and what do whatever that is there. No. So why is this theory seen as the best solution for the synoptic problem? Can somebody help us? Let's think critical. Let's be critical thinkers. Quick, 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 quick. Let's see how we are seeing the course. I'm waiting. Is somebody ready to help? Man, Kasa go. So just analyze whatever that we did, because we have said that the synoptic problem is the differences and the similarities. Okay, just if you don't understand everything, just understand this to help you understand what I'm asking. We understand that the synoptic problem means the similarities and the differences in the synoptic gospels, the similarities and the differences. And people have tried to solve it, and they are just saying that it was because this person did first and this person copied and this person did that. That is why that they are arranged differently. That is why there are things in this that are not in this. That is why this person said this and this person didn't say this. So these are the differences, or these are some of the solutions they are giving. And now we are seeing that the last one, the first source theory, scholars have agreed that it has been the best for the solution, or yeah, the best. Let me make it easy. It has been the best explanation to the reason why there is a synoptic problem. Explain why is it so? With the mama na age mama Miss Travel, I've broken it down. I've just break it down to the point that I'm saying that they are just explanation. There's synoptic problem, or the solution are just explanation to why there is a synoptic problem. So please, I beg you all, let me hear from you. Quick, 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 quick. Oh, who is trying? Now I'm going to try. Michelle D. So who is the course rep?
My
Hello,
assistant
can
will
you hear
bail
me?
us. Say, sir, please bail us.
I should bail you.
No, no, no.
Say sir.
Say,
Okay,
sir.
he is there. Okay, 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 okay. Okay,
Sir
Batman
Batman,
also
Sir
has read.
Batman is also ready.
Okay, okay. I'm
Okay.
waiting.
Thank you, sir.
You are
Uh,
welcome.
I can say that the four source theory is considered as the best option for the synoptic problems in the sense that the four source
Mhm.
theory is the most comprehensive as compared to the other solutions.
Mhm.
It is more comprehensive. And
Okay.
why is it? It builds on the strong evidence for mark priority. When you look at mark priority, the evidence given with respect to the four source theory is very much elaborate, and
Okay.
it is able to convince us. It's able to convince us about being the I can say that being the very source of.
Okay. So if I
Let,
should
let,
add a follow-up question, I want
okay.
to ask that how is it convincing you? In what way?
I can say that because of the unique material that it used,
Okay.
the yeah, the unique materials like the
Okay.
M
Okay.
and the L, yes,
M.
and the
Okay.
M and the L that it's used to add to
Okay.
it. That's
Okay. Anybody, if you have an argument against the fact that scholars are agreeing, even to the fact that um the first source theory is what help, you can also bring your argument. Oh. We are doing scholarly work here. Okay. You can also bring your argument that you don't agree to the fact that it is the best solution. You maybe you may prefer that the two source theory is what is solving it. Or if we even if you don't get this answer today, we have to come again and answer this. Okay, any other solution, any other answer to support the claim that the four source theory solved the problem or is the best that has ever solved the problem? Pina Enchi. Okay, please, you can come online.
Sir,
Yes,
please,
please.
I think because the information in Matthew and Luke are derived from different sources, it was not directly from one source.
Okay,
Because, yes, so from different directions, it has added value to what they already have. So I think
okay,
that is why it is the best theory for the synoptic problems.
okay. Thank you so much. I saw another handle. Bokone Jane. Thank you so much. Please, who was that? Ah,
Minjani,
okay. I'm comfort.
so
Okay.
I was about to say that with the four source theory, what I could see is it's it's built upon the two source theory, and
Okay.
then has integration of the M unique features, that's the M and then the L
Mm-hmm.
sources. Ehen.
Wow.
So it has
You okay, continue.
say I'm done.
You wanted to ask something. Okay, you've all done well. Like in fact, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And this is how we do scholarly work. Whenever you see anything, even if scholars are claiming, you have to also you can even try to be against it or be for it in your own way. Do you get it? Because when you are doing your research work, when you are doing, yeah, I think switch, you will be doing project work and things. When you are doing it, you, especially your literature review, you may have to mention somewhat that maybe according to this. And when you are doing your analysis, you maybe mention that even though this person said this, your own view, you to have to add it. So it's very important. Okay. All right. So me to my own view for accepting that fact is that let's look at Mark. You see, Mark is very small. So Mark is very small, but Matthew is more than Mark. Luke is more than Mark. How come they are copying from Mark? Do you get it? So here comes the case. You have to understand that Matthew, we can accept the fact that Matthew copied from Mark, but it is many, or it's larger than Mark, because he was able to copy things from kill source. Same as Luke 2. Luke 2 is more than Mark. So Luke also was able to copy things from kill source. And aside they having all copying those things, no, the reason why there are some differences in them, or there are some sort things from them that are not in other ones, is because they copy from L and from the M. That is, when we pick our Bible right now, I'm using our Bible right now. So it is true that it has best solved it, because you can deceive me if it is, even if it is not true, you can deceive me with these things. Please, is it a lie? Even if it is not true, when you take your Bible right now and somebody come and tell you that this is the reason why we have differences in the gospel, will you believe or will you not believe? Hello? Yes, you believe. Than if you tell me that, as compared to this, as compared to the two source, I will believe the first source more than this. Because if you tell me that Matthew copied from Mark and Luke copied from Mark, then it means that if they all copied from this person, they should all have the same things in them. But why is it that there are things from they copy from Mark and Q? It means they should have the same things in them. So why is it that there are things in Luke that are not in Matthew or Mark, and there are things in Matthew that are not in Luke and Mark? That is where the L and the M will be the strong point to solve this. I hope that is clear. All right, so let's now move on to the division of the Bible. I'm hoping this, maybe this. You said no, please. Hello, Madam Comfort. I said you weren't hearing me. Oh, sorry. I was saying the reason why I go for that point, I also support the claim that the first source theory has been of help. Can you hear me now? Has been a great source of help, is that if you bring this theory to me to explain that the reason why the Bible we have right now, there are things in Matthew, or there is a synoptic problem in it, in that there are things in Matthew that are not in Luke, and things in Luke that are not in Mark, I wouldn't believe this source as a solution. Is that if you are telling me that Mark is the main source of which Matthew and Luke copy from, as well as even the kill, they all copy from kill. So it means they all have the same sources. Then they all should be the same. So why is it that the Bible we have now, there are things in Luke that are not in Matthew, and there are things in Matthew that are not in Luke? That is where this solution will be the best for me, where you can tell me that aside they copying from these two, they also copied from another sources, which is L and the M. Please, is it clear? All right. So that is that. Now let's be a dollar for bottle water. Okay, I say sugar. Sorry. Let's move on to the divisions of the Bible into chapters and verses. You have to first understand that should I summarize? You have to first understand that the Bible we have right now was not, at first, was not divided into chapters and verses as we have right now. Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
okay. Sorry, I had to drink some small water. The Bible, as we have right now, as it's been divided into chapters and verses, at first was not like that. At first, they all had the same just continuation, reading like storybook from head to storybook. Let me say newspaper. So, but it got to a time that they had to divide it into chapters and verses for some reasons. Let me read what I have here for you. The word Bible comes from the Greek word or Greek neuter plural word, Biblia, which means books. But the singular word for that or for Bible is biblion, which is a book. So the plural word is the Biblia, and the singular word is the biblion, a book. The use of the plural form Biblia indicate that the Bible is a small library. Are we understanding it? The Bible is a small library. It is very important to know that originally the Bible was not divided into chapters and verses. The chapter division of the Bible probably started in the Latin version. That is, it was first the chapter division started when it got to the people who were reading Latin, when they translated it into Latin, okay, which is the Vulgate, by Lanfranc, who was the Archbishop of the Canterbury, and he died in 1089. In 1516 to 17, Felix Prantasis, a Christian convert, introduced the chapter division in the Hebrew Bible, which he published in Venice, Italy. Another Archbishop of the Canterbury called Stephen Langton. Hey, my friend level 100. I think I saw this. Stephen Langton also developed the chapter division in English Bible commonly used today. Stephen Langton employed the method of chapter division which Felix Prantasis had introduced. In 1555, Robert Einstein, a French printer and scholar who was also known as Stephanus, was first to divide the New Testament into verses in Latin Bible. William Whittingham, a dean of Denham and pastor of English Church in Geneva, began verse division in English version of the Bible. The Whittingham New Testament, or which is called the Whittingham New Testament. By following Robert Einstein Stephanus' division in the Greek New Testament, it is important to know that the wife of William Whittingham was John Calvin's sister. A Jewish rabbi called Nathan divided the Hebrew Old Testament in 1448. The Geneva Bible was first English Bible to adopt verse division, which was developed by Nathan. So to break it down for you, you have to take note of some important parts. For example, you have to understand that it is assumed that the chapter division started with the Latin version. We understand that the New Testament was written in Greek and some part Aramaic, right? And the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Please don't forget that. So when it got into the hands of Lanfranc, who was an archbishop, they changed it. And you know that those Roman churches or the Roman empires, they were more into Latin. Most of the things that they had was Latin. Sorry, it was written in Greek or Latin. Yeah. So they tried to start the division from there. The division of the Bible started, or is assumed to have started from the time it was translated into Latin by the Archbishop Lanfranc, who died in 1089. And then a man called Felix Prantasis, who was a Christian convert, also introduced the chapter division in Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, that is the Old Testament. He started that. And he published that in Venice. Then another archbishop called the Stephen Lanton. He also developed the chapter division in English Bible that we have now. And most of the commonly seen questions is who divided the English Bible, or who divided the chapters in the Bible in English version. And that is Stephen Lanton. That is the most commonly seen questions I've ever seen. But you may also see something about the Latin in some years to come. So don't focus on only that, just learn all. And he just build up on the things that Felix did. He just followed whatever that Felix did to the Hebrew Bible and he used that as a basis to build his own aspect of the division. Please, is that clear? Please, is that clear? That one is just a hit.
Sure.
Let's read it. Let's pay attention to the history and read it in our free time. Okay, at this point, you just have to stretch small as we prepare to go to the next chapter. Ouch. Just rest, stretch small, stand up and stretch small. If you have any question, just be preparing. Within this 5 minute break, I'll just come back to you and you ask that question. So we are continuing again at 2 o'clock. Exactly 2 o'clock. We'll continue with the next chapter. So if you have any question, just prepare the question. When I come or when you come back, you ask that question. If you have anything, suggestion or anything you have, just let us know. Hello, class. Please, can you hear me? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, Jesus. All right. So, is everybody here? Okay. Yeah, here. Let's continue with our class. So, we are moving to the chapter 3. That is the Gospel of Mark. The Gospel of Mark. I told you earlier on that the Gospel was written by different people with different reasons. They all had a reason why they wrote it, or things that motivated them to write, and even the circumstances around it and places that they wrote the book. So each author had his, or yeah, let me say his own reason and the things that motivated them to write. So let's look at the Gospel of Mark. Traditionally, we all know that it is Matthew that is written first in our book. Or let me say that is first in our New Testament book. But scholarly, that is not how it is. We consider Mark, as we have already established from the previous theories. We consider Mark as the first, yes. Even though to compare the years, you can choose another one to be the first. That is not the case for now. So let's look at the Gospel of Mark. Mark is the shortest. Please, is the view okay? Or I should zoom in again for you?
It is okay. You can see it.
Okay, okay. So this is more of reading stuff because of dates and other stuff. So you can just read with me. Mark is the shortest gospel with 16 chapters. With 16 chapters among the 4 gospels in the New Testament. Although the author was unknown, he was a Greek speaking Christian who presumably lived outside Palestine. That is according to Bath 2004 in his writings. According to the early church tradition, as at 1040 or 140 CE, the gospel is ascribed to Mark, who was a traveling companion of Paul and the interpreter of Peter. That is when it comes to the authorship. According to early church tradition, Bat was saying that um, the author is just assumed to be somebody who is a Greek speaking person, but he's unknown. That is according to Bat. So mostly, let me chip in this. When you are doing scholarly work, there are things that are just based on argument of people. There are things that are just sayings of people, what they know, their own ideologies, and their own perception about things. So when you are giving a claim and it's from somebody, make sure you quote the person. Or if you are just saying you are sharing your view, just let it be clear that you are sharing your view. So probably, or it's assumed, or presumably, or maybe per my own view, I think or I suggest. These are some ways you can use. So you see that early church tradition, as at by 140 CE, the gospel was ascribed to Mark, who was a traveling companion of Paul, and he was an interpreter of Peter. However, Barth is also saying another thing, that the author is unknown, even though he was a Greek speaking Christian who is presumably lived outside Palestine. Please, am I making myself clear? 2-6. Please, I can't hear anything now. Okay. Okay, it was before I started. Please, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we understand the authorship. That church history says that it was by Paul and Mark, who was a companion of Paul and an interpreter, even though Bart was saying something else. But we mostly choose what church history says. Yeah, so let's be careful when we are stating the answer. Mark was written between 65 to 70 AD, that is after the death of Christ, in the late second century. Clement of Alexandria cites Rome as the place where Mark was written. Clement of Alexandria is a church father, one of the church fathers. He cites Rome as a place where Mark was written. That is according to Brown 1997. The recipients were not Jews because the author carefully explained some Jewish purification custom to them. So he's making it clear that the fact that you all know that when they were writing, those people were not there. So they are all just basing, that is like history. They are all basing their facts on things, happenings, and circumstances that surround a particular thing. That is how they all base their argument. Please hold on for me. Okay. Okay, sorry. So, um, the recipients were not Jews because the author carefully explained some Jewish purification customs to them. The author wrote to the first Christians at Rome who were persecuted during and after the time of Emperor Nero, around 5468 AD. We've already established, I think we mentioned that one of the reasons why the gospel was written was just to encourage those who were going through persecution and that. So reading here should just let you understand what you have already mentioned earlier. Okay. So it was written to the first Christians at Rome who were persecuted during and after the time of Emperor Nero, according to Fried. It was also It was also written to sustain the Christians who were displaced and became hopeless because of the fall of Jerusalem. Again, Mark was written to a Christian community who never want to identify with any of the Jewish group during the period of persecution. Some of these Christians traveled as itinerant charismatics who continued the preaching and healing mission as instructed by Jesus Christ. Please, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. My thing was lagging here. Okay. Some of these Christians traveled as itinerant charismatics who continue the preaching and healing mission as instructed by Jesus. They were ready to comply with Jesus' directive to the point of death, if God willed. So this one means that um, these people were, let me say, what you say, missionaries. Yeah, let me use missionaries for that. So they were just traveling here and there, spreading the gospel. They were having that charisma, even though some people were being persecuted, but they said that they will still keep on traveling, moving here and there to spread the gospel as they were commanded by Jesus. So these were some of the people that Mark wrote this book to, or yeah, wrote this gospel to, so that at least it will encourage them to keep on doing, because these people had separated themselves from the Jews because of how they were being persecuted, and because of some kind of laws and things that they were using against them. They had to just flee or go and hide themselves somewhere, and they were hopeless there too. So the book of Mark was written to them, even as a form of encouragement and to give them hope. The Gospel of Mark was written in Koine Greek, the common language, or possibly the imperfect Greek spoken by the lower classes in Rome. So when you talk about the Koine Greek, it's an aspect of the Greek language, and it's mostly considered as the one that is not spoken by that is spoken by the lower class. We have the classic one where people are just more into it, and we have different type of Greeks. But this one was just speaking spoken by the lower class level, people who were not able to speak it very well, but at least they were trying. They were not elites like that, but there are people that were speaking the Greek that are for the elite. So when you hear that, you know that they are speaking. For example, our English language. Somebody will speak an England person or a European person will speak the English, and you know that the person is just speaking the good English. And we have lower class people that will be trying to speak the English. That is how the coin Greek is. The Gospel of Mark has the following features. Let's look at the features of the Gospel of Mark. The features of the Gospel of Mark. One, it is the shortest gospel in the canonical New Testament. Shortest gospel, not the shortest book. Take note. When you are writing, please take note. It is the shortest gospel in the canonical New Testament. It has no genealogy or the birth story of Jesus, no beatitude, no Lord's prayer, and no golden rule. And no golden rule. Number three, Mark's language was raw example for example, in the story of the storm on the sea. The disciple asked Jesus, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Somebody should read it for us. Mark chapter 4, verse 38. Mark chapter 4, verse 38. Please, are we here? Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir. It's raining
Please, some.
at my end, so I cannot hear
Mark,
you well.
Mark
Oh,
chapter
okay.
4.
Mark chapter
Ma-
4, verse 38.
Ma-
If
Mark
we get
chapter
there, I be very okay.
Jesus,
mine mine is King James.
Okay, you read it. He gives now
Okay,
I twisted that, so if it was just normal English, but you read it.
okay. Mark chapter 4, verse 38. It says that, and he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish?
Okay. If we get normal English. King James has already
Mark,
done. Okay.
Mark 4:38. Jesus
Okay.
was in the den, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, Teacher, don't you care if we drown?
Don't you
Amen.
care if we drown? So they are saying that they are look. Mark's English was just rough, as in the kind of broken English that some people have. So don't you care if we drown? While they were already drowning, so he was just breaking, making the English some way. You get it? That is why it makes it clear that it was written in a rough English. That is one example. The author of Mark tried to portray the human side of Jesus. For example, Jesus was asleep in the storm of the boat. Jesus was hungry and expected the fig tree to have fruit. That is one feature of it. But take note, the fact that we are mentioning features doesn't mean some of the features are not in the other gospels. These are just, let me say, characteristics. So when you say characteristics of a man, you always, or let me say characteristics of man, we can say that a man has eyes. Yes, man has eyes, but women too are the same. So they are just features. Take note. I'm not mentioning the differences. We are just mentioning characteristics. I know why I'm drawing your attention to that. Okay. Mark's gospel is addressed to a martyr church facing persecution. Mark's gospel is addressed to a martyr church facing persecution. That is, it was written to church or the parts of the church that were going through a lot, where they were hopeless. So it was just written to encourage them. So when you look at their content, you realize that it just addresses certain things that will just give them hope. For example, where they were going through and the storm, and Jesus spoke to um calm the storm. It was just written to comfort, and that's why those things were more particular in it. Mark's gospel seems to be universal because the author explained words that were exclusive to be Jewish custom for the non-Jewish readers. For example, words like Talita Kum and Korban. Mark's gospel seems to be universal because the author explained the words that were exclusive. So let's read this. Let me get you the scripture, and you realize for Mark, after saying the Talita Kum, you also add that damsel rise. Somebody should check it for us. Mark chapter 5, verse 41. Mark chapter 5, verse 41. Mark chapter 5, verse 41.
Mark 5:41.
Okay.
He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha kum, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up.
Yes. You see, for Mark, he mentioned it. But let's compare and see something. Let's compare Matthew's one and see what Matthew 2 will do. If Matthew will mention or will not mention. Matthew chapter 8, verse 28.
Matthew 8:28.
Okay.
Um, I think you please, I think you should check the verse or the chapter again for me.
Okay. Read the 33 and let's see.
Okay. 33. Those tending the pigs ran off, went onto the town and reported all this, including what had
Okay.
happened.
Go back to
Mhm.
maybe 30.
32 is about the pig.
Matthew 8. Oh.
Yes, Matthew. You mentioned Matthew. That's where I
Yeah.
am, please.
Okay. Let me confirm it for myself.
Mm.
But the main thing you have to understand here is where Matthew, Mark explained all the Jewish words. When he mentioned the Jewish word, he tried to explain it. Is that clear? He tried to explain it because it is written to the universal church, not to the Jews. But some of the books that were written to only Jews, they all okay. Some of the things that were written to only Jews, they will just mention the Jewish word or the Hebrew word and just Aramaic word, sorry, and just leave it like that. Please, is that clear? Please, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next feature is that Mark shows special interest in exorcism. That is the casting out of evil spirit. Faith is needed before a miracle can take place. Mark chapter 9, verse 23. Somebody should open that one for you.
Yeah, please, sir, before we look at that one there about the little girl, it's in
Okay.
Matthew chapter 9, verse
9.
25.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, please. Please, you said
Okay.
the
So
next. Yeah. Should
are
we
you going
read
to
it?
read it? Okay, you read it.
Matthew 9:41.
Let's see if Matthew will mention or will not mention.
Matthew 9:25. Right. Matthew 9:25 says, and after the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took the girl by the hand, and she got up. That is
That's
it,
all.
sir. Yes,
Okay.
please.
For him, he wasn't even specific. Did Luke through try something like that? Um, I don't know if Luke mentioned something like that. Let's check Luke 8:40 and see. I think Luke 2 will not mention the Aramaic word, but let's try and see. And from here, are we seeing that some differences? For Mark mentioned even Jewish word, but Matthew did not mention the Jewish word. So this is where some part of the synoptic problem is coming in. The
Okay.
differences and the similarities. The differences and the have you gotten the look?
Luke, please, Luke chapter 8, verse what?
Try 8 verse 40 going and let's see. Check the story and let's see what's there.
Okay. Okay.
But somebody should open the mark we mentioned, okay? Mark 9:23, so that the moment we are done, we just put straight.
The Luke 8, let me come to verse 42.
Okay.
Because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As
Mhm.
Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him. That's all Mark said about it.
Luke.
The 41, Luke, the 41 said, then a man named Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his
Okay.
house because his only daughter was dying. Yeah. So
So
that's
that's
all.
all.
Yes, please.
So are we taking note of what's happening right now? So the same story, each of them presented it differently. The same story, but each of them presented it differently. So if maybe we are explaining your synoptic problem, these are some of the examples you can get. This is that clear? Okay, is the Mark 9:23 ready? Special interest in exorcism.
Mark 9:23. If
Okay.
you if you can, said Jesus, everything is possible for him who believes.
Everything is possible for him who
Who
believes.
believes?
Okay. So Mark shows more interest in the casting out of spirit where Jesus healed somebody, Jesus performed miracles. But there is an emphasis on the fact that faith is needed. If you want to perform the miracles that Jesus performed, if you want to experience the miracle Jesus um, performed, then you need faith. You need faith. So one of the features of Mark is interest in exorcism. All right, let's move on. Please, is that clear for the features of Mark? Hello. Please, is that clear for the features of Mark? It seems you have
Yes,
only
sir.
one person but last. Okay. All right. So let's move on to how Mark portrayed Jesus. Mark's portrayal of Jesus. The portrayal of Jesus in the Gospel of Mark point to Jesus as the suffering Son of God. Please take note. Mark portrayed Jesus as the suffering Son of God, who nobody recognized until the end of his ministry. In Mark 15, verse 33 to 39, somebody should open it. It was only at the end of Jesus' ministry on the cross that a soldier realized that Jesus was the Son of God. So we are putting the whole Mark in summary as how Mark portrayed Jesus. He portrayed him as a suffering Son of God, who nobody recognized until the end of his ministry. Mark 15, is it ready?
Mark 15, 29 to 33.
33 to 39.
Okay. At the sixth hour, darkness came over the whole land until the ninth hour.
Okay.
And at the ninth hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Have you taken note of one feature here? What is that? Please, not you, not Madam Charity. Somebody else should come in. I want to know if you are following this thing.
Sir,
The mention of
Okay.
Eloi in, I think in Matthew and Luke is Eli Eli.
Okay, for that one, it's just the spelling, okay, and in the versions. But there is particular thing that I just explained it that I want us to get to when we are doing the features of Mark. When we are doing the features of Mark, what is that particular feature?
I heard you said it portrays Jesus as a suffering God, suffering Son of God, something like that.
No, I'm not talking about where we have gotten to. When she was reading, she mentioned something. Please read the same verse again. Please, let's take notes.
At the sixth hour, darkness came over the whole land until the ninth hour. And at the ninth hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Okay. Please, what is it? Anyone?
Please, I used to. Is it about the suffering?
No, 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 no. I mean, after reading this, I was asking that he has mentioned something, that we have talked about the features of Mark. And what type of feature am I talking about right now? That one can
Hello,
we
the
spend
use of
much
the
time?
language.
The
Okay,
human side of the
come again.
human side, the human
The-
side of Jesus Christ.
okay. That is one. Thank you. And what again? Somebody mentioned something.
The Jewish language
Okay, the Jewish language has done what?
that
The use
he
of the
used
language.
in the context.
You see, thank you so much. You are making a good point. But if you, this is some problem we face always. If you mention the point and you leave it blank like that, it can be wrong, it can be right. Please, Ezekiel, the use of Jewish language. Yes, he used Jewish language. But there are other books that placed emphasis on the Jewish language because they were assumed or believed to have been written to Jews. But the aspect I'm talking about right now in this feature is the part I said that um it is assumed or it is seen to be universal because so the part I'm talking about is the universality of that particular book, not the language itself, but the universality. So we have to understand that the mark is universal because the author explained words that were exclusive to the Jewish custom. So Eli Eli lama sabachthani is a Jew, it's a language exclusive to the Jewish custom. Yes, But because it is assumed that it was written to a general or the universal people, he always explains the Jewish language. And that is what happened there. When he mentioned Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, he also explained that, which means, my father, why hast thou forsaken me? Please, are we understanding it? Please,
Yes.
are things clear now? Yes.
Yes,
So
but it looks complicated.
just relax. Don't allow it to be complicated. Okay.
Hmm.
Just relax your mind. Yes, please.
So, so you are saying that whenever Mark used the Jewish language, he explained it
Exactly. If not
better.
all, most of the Jewish things he mentioned, he explains. That
Okay.
is why it is assumed to be a universal book. Because, let me say, if I'm a fanti and I'm writing to people in, let me say, the north, and I write in only fanti, how would they understand? They will not understand, right? Unless if I write, I then explain. That is why they will understand. But if I'm writing to my colleague Fanti, there is no need for me to explain. I'll just write the make our code is diaba. I'll just write it and leave it like that, because I know whenever a Fanti pick the book, you will understand make our code is diaba. But if I go to the extent of explaining the make our code zaba as I'm going to eat, then it means that I expect everybody to be able to read the book. Please, is it clear? Better.
Yes.
Yes. So the reason why we assume it to be um a universal book is because whenever he mentions any Jewish language, he explains it. But there are some of them, they will just mention the Jewish language and leave it like that, because it is that, and because of that, it's assumed to have been written to a Jewish people. Please, is it clear? All right, let's continue before we waste my time here. Yeah, we can finish the chapter 4, then we close. All right, so hey, so back to what we are doing. I forgot myself. Um, you read up to 34, right? Continue, please.
When some of those standing near heard this, they said, "Listen, he is calling Elijah." One man ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down," he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in
Take
front
note,
of
please.
Jesus,
Please
pardon,
repeat it. I was saying you
the,
should take note.
uh,
Read that
the
portion again.
and when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus heard his cry and saw how he died, he said, "Surely this man was the Son of God."
Surely this man is the Son of God. So in Mark's presentation, he portrayed Jesus. So please, I think that's where the confusion is coming from. Understand that this part I'm talking about is different from the features we have already mentioned. Those ones were features. Those ones were features, which forms part of the place of writing the recipient. Those part, the part I was mentioning earlier on, were just features. But this part I'm mentioning how he portrayed Jesus. Please, is it clear? How he portrayed, and this can also be a feature too, though. It can be a feature, but it depends on how you explain it. So, how Mark portrayed Jesus is that he portrayed him as a suffering Son of God, of which nobody knew or recognized it until the end of his ministry. So if you take the Bible, you will realize that especially in Matthew, I think chapter 16 or so, there was a time Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do men say I am?" So Peter was able to mention that you are the Son of God, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. But in Mark, you will not see that portion in it. So you realize that nobody recognized that he was the Son of God until he died, where the soldier realized that Jesus was the Son of God. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then, please, any question up to this point? The way you are not asking question, you must say, fine. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So if Jesus wouldn't have died, they will not believe that he's the Son of God.
Will anybody help us? Who is going to help us?
Yeah. Okay, please let me come in. Even not that if the what we have just read from Matthew and Mark, you can see that even on the cross, they have identified him to be the Son of God, looking at his miracles. So not that till his death that they knew that he is the Son of God. But they have identified it through his ministry, when he started his ministry, especially in his miracles. Yes, that's what I would say. Even what we have read by raising Jairus' daughter, that one to a miracle. So even if we read through the Bible, we can see that after every miracle, people run to the town to talk of him. So his death just concluded it to them that really he is the Son of God. That's my opinion.
Okay, any other opinion?
Okay, so aside Jesus Christ, his resurrection also uh, serve as said Jesus Christ was the Son of God,
Mm-hmm.
because during the time on the cross, people, as Madam Tina is asking, people were not believing still that Jesus Christ was the Son until his death. Yet still, uh, some were also not getting it, that he is the Son of God, until he was buried in
Okay.
the tomb and resurrected. And during that time, we had some people who couldn't believe, yet still, that he was the Son of God, until example, the two people on when they were walking to this town, Emmaus,
Mm-hmm.
he was with them, but they couldn't believe until he went into their house, sit down with them and enjoy meal with them. Later, then they recognize him as the Son of God. So, um, how do I even put it?
Please, are you done?
Yes,
I
sir.
thought you want to add something, but
I want to ask something, but it's not there.
all right. Any other suggestion too? Mm-hmm. Any other? Okay, so you know one thing. Whatever we are reading here is limited to the mark. Okay, whatever ideology we are presenting here right now is limited to mark. But looking at your question, my answer I will give to you was that how Mark was portraying Jesus was that Among all the things that Mark wrote, even with all the miracles that he did, they did not, according to the scholars, they did not recognize him as Jesus. In that it is possible. Okay. Um, I've read Luke, I've read some part of the Bible, all, but for Mark, I've not read all, but I've scrolled through, let me say all or some part. I've not seen where after a miracle they said or they believed, not believing, uh, but they said that he was the Son of God, or to say he was the suffering Son of God, as in a Son of God who came to just suffer until the last day where the soldier said that. That is according to the scholars. They are just saying that Mark portrayed Jesus as the suffering Son of God. So when you read the verse 1, chapter 1, he said that it is the brother of the Son, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So he was presenting Jesus as Son of God. Maybe other books may present him as the Messiah, or even the people were seeing him as the Messiah. They were seeing him as Rabbi. They were seeing him as teacher. They were seeing him as miracle worker, even when he was healing them and raising the dead. They were seeing him differently, but did not recognize that he was the Son of God. There is a difference between the recognition of somebody as a son of God and recognition of somebody as a teacher or a healer. Please, is it clear? So maybe you can take time and read Mark from chapter 1 to the last chapter. If maybe you see that somebody mentioned that indeed he is the Son of God, maybe that will solve the doubt.
Okay, let me say something small.
Okay, please.
I look at Mark chapter 10, verse 45.
Okay,
It
chapter 10,
verse 45. He portrayed Jesus as Son of Man,
Son
but
of Man. Perfect.
Son of Man, yes, but he didn't talk about Son of being a Son of God. So
Yes,
as you said, he didn't portray Jesus as a Son of God. But what we can see here is rather Son of Man.
yes, yes. Let's read that. You see, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom. You get it? So he did not. So it means that the reason why maybe they did not recognize him as a son of God was the fact that he did not say that I am the Son of God, and he was showing himself as, that is for Jesus. He was showing himself as a Son of Man. However, take note that Mark was portraying him as the suffering Son of God. So if I'm to add my view or my voice to it in scholarly work, I will say that the reason why this scholar is saying that Mark portrayed Jesus as the suffering Son of God is that it was at the time of his suffering only. It was only at the time of his suffering that somebody mentioned that Jesus was the Son of God, or somebody realized that Jesus was the Son of God. So the miracle did not convince anybody to say that Jesus was the Son of God. The teaching did not convince anybody or make somebody to realize that he was the Son of God until his suffering. If I'm to add my voice as a scholar, please, is everything clear now? Please, is everything clear? All right. Any question? I want us to finish the chapter 4 so that I think your calendar or your outline is very short, so we have to do things quick. So let's go to the Gospel of Matthew. The Gospel of Matthew. Oh, some driving. Okay, let's look at the authorship and the recipient. So I please take note. The first one we did was Mark. The authorship is as some say that it is unknown. That is according to Bat. But um, early church history portrays or clearly states that it was Mark who was an interpreter of Peter who wrote it. And it is also assumed that the recipient was to, let me say, it was universal to everybody, to the nations, not only to Jews, but to both Jews and Gentiles. These were the recipients. And specifically, the recipients were to the church who were hopeless, the martyr church or the itinerant who were facing persecution, and it was written to them that they will find hope. Please, is it clear? Okay. Let's look at the authorship of Matthew. Matthew is the longest gospel among the four gospels in the New Testament. It was originally written in Greek between 70 to 80 AD. The internal, when you hear any where we say internal evidence, it means that that particular thing is written in that particular book. Okay. The internal evidence of Matthew shows that it is Jewish gospel. It's something clicking in somebody's mind now. The internal evidence shows that it is a Jewish gospel. But in Mark, everything shows. That's why you didn't state, you didn't even, we were not specific that it's internal evidence, but most of the things you were seeing were from the internal evidence. That it shows that it was a universal gospel. That's for Mark. But Matthew, it's a Jewish gospel written by a Jews for Jews. It was written by a Jew for Jews, but a reflection of Gentile interest. So he showed a little of Gentile interest, but directly it was written for Jews. Let's check some of the internal evidence. Chapter 4, verse 12. And somebody should open 12, verse 15. And another person should open, I made a mistake here. Should open chapter, I have to check it from my main source. But let's read two a time cardinal. So I'll rectify that and get back to you. I think chapter 25, verse 1 to 43 also. But let's read the two. Chapter 4, verse 12, chapter 12, verse 15. Oh, why didn't I say? When didn't I see this thing? 25. Hello, please, are you there?
Matthew chapter 4, verse 12 to 14.
Okay.
Now, when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee. Verse 13. And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali. 14. That is might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Amen.
16.
15. The land
16.
of Zebulun. 16.
Yes,
The
please.
people who sat
Okay,
in
start from
darkness,
15. Sorry, start from 15.
the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles.
Gentiles.
16. The people who sat in darkness saw great light, and to them who sat in the region and shadow of death, light is spring up. Amen.
Amen. Somebody should read the 12, verse 15. 12 verse 15.
12, verse 15. Jesus, sorry, Jesus, aware of this, withdrew from there, and many followed him, and he healed them all. Amen.
Continue to 21.
And ordered them not to make him known. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. Behold, my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, with whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall proclaim justice to the Gentiles. He will not wrangle or cry aloud, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. He will not break a bruised reed or quench a smoldering ring till he brings justice to victory. And in his name will the Gentiles hope. Amen.
Amen. So, looking at all these, you can see that he's focusing on the fact that the thing was written to for the Jews, but he showed some interest in the Gentiles. That is why there were the mention of some part of the Gentile. But when you look at it, you could see that he's speaking from the Jewish scriptures. That is from what Isaiah had already prophesied about this same Jesus. So he's speaking the things from the context of the Jews, because Gentiles may not have read anything that was already spoken by the prophet. Okay, so the things that were spoken by the prophet were for the Jews, but they were also showing some interest that Christ, even though he came for the Jews, he also had interest in the Gentiles, as in he came that the Gentiles too will see the light. Okay, to just understand that it was written for Jews, but by Jews for the Jews, but a reflection of the interest of Gentiles. What is the purpose of Matthew? As a Jew, Matthew usually uses the kingdom of heaven instead of the kingdom of God, in order to substitute heaven to avoid the use of the divine name. So you see, Jews have some view that you don't mention the name of the Lord in vain. So I don't know how vain writing writing about Jesus would do, but to them they believe that before you, I think I've read of documents that state that before they will mention the name of the Lord, they have to do some purifications and other stuff. So you don't mention the name of the Lord just like that. Before you can mention the name of the Lord, there are so many things that you have to do. So in order to substitute the mention of God, or in order to be safe or free, he substitute the name of God for the heaven. That's why he said, he mentioned mostly that the kingdom of God, instead of mentioning the kingdom of God, he mentioned the kingdom of heaven instead, so that they wouldn't use the name or the divine name, because he was a pure Jew and he understood that. Please, is it clear? Please, is it clear? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's understood.
Okay. The author also used the word church, which is peculiar to him, to show that the church was established by Jesus himself, with Peter as the main member and authority. Let's check 16 verse 17, where he said that Peter, upon him he will build the church and blah 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 blah, and the gate of hell shall not prevail against it. So the author used the word church, and that is peculiar to him, So which source will that be from? A quick response. Hello. Hi, are you following the class? Hello.
Yes.
Or we are
Yes,
lost. I just read
sir, we are
something
following.
and I'm asking that which source is it coming from? The mind is tired. Oh, I'll close very soon. I just wanted to finish this. Or we should just close and continue another time.
Please, the question again.
Okay, you
Sir,
when you
please,
are.
it's about to rain at my end, though. So I'm rushing to my house.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I'll close right now. Let's just
It's
finish
it's
the.
even raining.
Come again.
It's even raining at my end.
Wow. Hey, anyway, you told baby. Baby, wow. Then you let's just answer the question and we close. Okay. Let's just finish, or
Okay.
let's just finish the
Say the question
purpose.
again.
I
Say the
read
question
something.
again.
Okay. I read that the author used the word church, which is peculiar to him, to show that the church was established by Jesus himself, with Peter as the main member and authority. And I asked that which source is that particular statement coming from? In Matthew 16, which source is it coming from? Where he mentioned the church? Or the phrase, the statement I just made, which source will you see that that particular verse was taken from? This one it called for just a quick answer. It makes me feel you've not understood um the synoptic mark. Is that so? Any other? Any other? Which source? We've already understood that they had different sources. Where we said the Matthew copied from Mark, KO, and blah blah blah. And I'm asking right now. I made a statement. I said that um the author also used the word church, as in Matthew used the word church, which is peculiar to him, to show that the church was established by Jesus himself, with Peter as the main member and authority.
So it might be the M source.
Perfect. It's from the M source. It's from the M source because we have made mention that it is peculiar to him only. And we said that the M source were the things or the materials that are peculiar to those particular people only. Please, are we understanding? So the course that we are doing, mostly when you read, just try and connect it to some of the things we've done, the sources, the features. When you are reading, just read and you connect. You read and you connect. Even when you are in church and you read the scripture, you read and you try to analyze it. That is what religion is meant to make us do. That we will analyze, you will be critical thinkers. So we see this and we try to analyze it with other stuff. Not just doing it and writing the exams. No. But we try to analyze things to be good critical thinkers and analytics. Okay. So I had wanted somebody to read it, but I don't know, and I think I've summarized it. It's just where he mentioned that you are Simon Barjona, uh flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but the Father in heaven, blah blah blah. And he went on to say that I'll build my church. Upon you I'll build my church, and the gate of hell shall not prevail against it. That is where we are talking about that the church there, it is peculiar to only Matthew, and he was using it to signify that, or to show that Jesus Christ established the church and he made Peter the head. Okay. Matthew presents Jesus as the messianic son of David. Are we seeing how he is presenting him? He presents Jesus as the messianic son of David, who fulfilled the Old Testament prophecy. That is why mostly you see that you read what Isaiah prophesied about him in the land of Zebulun, in the land of Naphtali. The people that sat in darkness have seen a great light, blah 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 blah. And you mentioned that this is what the Bible, the prophet spoke about him. That this is that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to. All those things He was referring to the Jewish part of Him. He was just to fulfill the Old Testament prophecies. It was just to fulfill the Old Testament prophecy. So I can only say that when you check even from the temptation, this is the part that he was defending. He was quoting what it is written. It is written. It is written. Okay. Unlike Mark, who showed interest in the miracles of Jesus, Matthew concentrates on the teachings of Jesus. He presents a new law comparable to the Torah. While Torah reveals God's will through Moses, the Gospel reveals, or the Matthew Gospel reveals God's will through Jesus. Please take note. He presents the new law comparable to the Torah, in that while the Torah reveals God's will through Moses, that's in the laws or the things that God wants and He doesn't want through Moses, the Gospel reveals God's will through Jesus. So it was just revealing what God wants and what He doesn't want through Jesus by His teachings. Some of the Matthew's teachings include the Sermon on the Mount, with the Beatitudes, the Golden Rule, and the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer. So these are some of the things that, or the purpose for the writing of Matthew, just to show us who Jesus was. He was the Messianic son of David, who was just to fulfill the Old Testament prophecy. And also, it was written to show us the teachings of Jesus and to present us who the will of God, in that the Torah was revealing the will of God through Moses, while the gospel reveals God's will through Jesus Christ, even through his sermons. Please, is that clear? Any questions so far, so that we call it a day and we continue from the divisions of Matthew from next week? Any question? Okay. So if you have no question, then I think we have to call it a day and continue another time. So if you have any challenge, you can reach out to me. I'm on the page. So you can reach out to me and we will handle that. All right. So thank you all so much for coming to class today. Doc sends his regards to you all. I believe by next week he will be with us here. All right. I will send the slide to you too so that you can go through. Have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You are welcome.